All the business gurus, Alex Hormozi, Charlie Morgan, Iman Gadzhi, even Stephen Bartlett, Chris Williamson, they've effectively replaced the conventional MBA. You get a better business education from YouTube than you do from a business professor. But YouTube is actually the biggest entrepreneur killer of our modern age. In this video, I'm going to show you the main ways in which not blocking YouTube was costing me a shitload of money, and I obsessively study prioritization, elimination, execution, and accountability. That's what my company's about. This company right here, ladies and gentlemen, had its biggest month yet, 3 months after I quit YouTube. First thing, when I eliminated YouTube, it allowed me to actually work on the constraint of the business. The constraint of any business is the one domino that you actually need to push over to actually scale. For me, the constraint was traffic. I had a good offer, I had good service delivery, I had a bunch of ESMs, executive systems managers, which is basically the people that we place for entrepreneurs in my business. I had all the stuff ready, I just didn't have enough traffic. I wasn't making content, I wasn't running ads, we weren't sending enough emails. And it was because I was consuming all this content on YouTube. I don't even want to get into what my screen time was, but let's just say that, it wasn't a pretty sight. But interestingly, here's another point that I want to explore. Because I was exposed to all these different people that were at a later stage than me, like Alex Hormozi, like Stephen Bartlett, I continuously misidentified the constraint in my business. I thought that I had to hire more people. And the reason why that I believe this happened is because most of the people that make content on YouTube, especially in the business/entrepreneurship space, are making content that is tailored towards themselves. They're talking about their own experiences. I heard Alex Hormozi say this. He makes content that only he can make. If he's only making content that he can make, obviously he's gonna make content about running a private equity firm and God knows what. Stuff that isn't applicable to you and me. So the constraints that he was talking about, in a sense, subconsciously made me misidentify what the constraint in my business was all the time. The problem was I just wasn't running enough traffic to my offer. It was as simple as that. Which actually gets me to another benefit that quitting YouTube had, which was that I had no shiny object syndrome. Shiny object syndrome, I believe, is probably one of the most abysmal things that an entrepreneur can incur. Shiny object syndrome kills more businesses than Mark Zuckerberg Facebook account shutdowns, than lack of motivation, lack of discipline, insert whatever the hell you want. Shiny object syndrome is it. Now, to be clear, there is a funnel of shiny object syndrome that I want to draw out for you that is very, very important. So here is my beautiful drawing that I just made up here. If you actually notice the entrepreneurial journey, what you'll see is that when you start off in business, the first thing that you actually incur shiny object syndrome on is the market. You're like, I don't feel like I'm in the right market. I feel like I should be in a better opportunity. Why am I drop shipping? I should be starting an agency. Or why am I starting an agency? I should be, running XYZ business, or I should start an AI automation business. It's basically the market that you're targeting. Once you actually beat shiny object syndrome on the market level, you actually start incurring it on the business level. So you start switching businesses. You're like, okay, I picked the market, I picked, the overall space that I'm gonna be in. Now I'm gonna start switching businesses. Then after businesses comes offers, right? So you start switching offers. You have one offer in a business, another offer in a business. Then again, it's the actual type of funnel, ironically. VSLs, webinar challenges, you start switching these. And then at the bottom is client acquisition systems, right? What's the actual way that you're gonna get clients? Is it ads? Is it content? Is it LinkedIn? Is it cold calling? Every single point, and again, there's multiple layers that come down after this in order for you to actually get to the point of being an entrepreneur with a scalable business. But when you're exposed to so many different ways, so much information, you enter a state of what I like to call analysis paralysis. Now, to be clear, I always had one business throughout this time. I had a problem before where I kept switching businesses. The problem with me was that I would keep switching client acquisition systems. So I saw Hormozi, just invested in school. So yeah, let's go on school. Let's move all our service delivery there. And now we have more of a community-based model. And then, a whole bunch of other stuff happened anyways. Point being, the lack of that exposure allowed me to actually hyper-focus on one method, which for us was cold email. Cold email still brings in the biggest chunk of our customers, of our clients for this company right here. That's why I can sit here on my high horse and tell you I got none to sell you, because of cold email. Third thing, no more conflicting information. Another big one. All the gurus that you see on YouTube tell you stuff that is contradictory because they're incentivized to sell you their programs. Now look, I'm not casting shade. I understand business is business. I actually admire a lot of the guys that are in the online information / education space. There's nothing wrong with it in my opinion. But the problem is the rhetoric that they use to sell their stuff provides you with conflicting information. One person saying start a personal brand, the other person saying no, don't do a personal brand, run ads. Another person saying no, don't run ads, do this XYZ thing. And so yeah, obviously there's a problem of having shiny object syndrome still, where you're receiving all this conflicting information, everybody's arguing with each other. You're like, what the hell do? I have no idea. You have all these false beliefs that you've acquired, like, oh no, cold calling doesn't work anymore, ads used to work back then, webinars used to work. You have all these false beliefs that you acquire as a result of hearing all of this sales rhetoric that's just meant to sell you on one particular opportunity. And then you got people that come in, especially to my business that we work with, telling us, oh no, I don't want to do, cold calling because it doesn't work. I don't want to, run ads because, building a personal brand works, but ads don't work. It's not the fact that any of these systems that we wrote out, it's not the fact that webinars don't work, VSLs don't work, low to high ticket funnels don't work. Everything works. It's just about whether or not you can focus enough to make it work. I'll say that one more time. All of these things work. It's about whether or not you can focus enough to actually make it work. That's the important thing. And number 4, I think this is the most important, the most valuable thing that I probably incurred, and I think that a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to this. Let's be honest, the fact that you're on this video probably shows that you're avoiding working on the constraint of the business. The constraint of most businesses is advertising. For me, what blocking YouTube did was it allowed me to not avoid advertising. For me, YouTube was the biggest thing that was eating away at my time. It allowed me to avoid building out the cold email systems or finding somebody to build it out. It actually allowed me to avoid posting these videos. It basically allowed me to be a consumer. It gave me the permission to sit back in my chair, watch content, leave my hate comments. I might be calling some of you guys out. And it allowed me to do that instead of actually putting myself in the uncomfortable position of being on this side, right? Actually recording, or the uncomfortable side of sending out the emails instead of being the one that replies, or the uncomfortable side of the person that is making the calls instead of the person that's picking them up saying, yeah, I'm not interested. And it's always the people that do the most uncomfortable thing at any given time that I have seen are the most successful. It's not about how intelligent you are, it's how much discomfort, how much stress, how much pain you can endure, and how long you can endure it for. That's what business is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, if you liked the video, like the video. If you didn't like the video, don't like the video. Comment section down below for your love, hate, platonic, non-platonic comments. I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.